Smarties, we hear it all the time. Your learners do not want to use their email, and they certainly do not want to email their teachers. We are digging into all the reasons why learners push back about email and what to do about it. Don't forget, Smarties, we work on this self-advocacy skill all the time with the learners in both of our practices. My practice is CAP Educational Therapy Group. We're located in Beverly Hills, California, and virtually everywhere. We specialize in learners with executive functioning skills challenges from 5th grade through adulthood. And Steph's practice is in Manhattan Beach, California, and Redondo Beach, California, and virtually everywhere. And her practice is My Ed Therapist. You can sign up for phone calls on both of their websites, www.capedtherapy.com and www.myedtherapist.com. Let's dig in.
You want to learn faster, but sometimes working harder is just not the answer. You have to learn smarter. The Educational Therapy Podcast.
Hi, Smarties. Welcome to episode 312 of Learn Smarter, the Educational Therapy Podcast. I'm Stephanie Pitts.
And I'm Rachel Kapp.
This is a really interesting episode.
Overdue.
It's definitely overdue. And it's funny because I remember I told you that we wrote the episode and then I had a call with a parent.
Yes.
Literally the next day about this exact thing. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's popping up everywhere.
Well, and that's how our episodes often come to fruition. It's like we see the trend and then we chat about it. And let's be honest, this is something that we've talked about in other episodes, but maybe not done such an explicit episode about all the reasons why learners don't want to email. And it's like the number one thing that parents often want to see them doing. They want to see them emailing. They want to see them emailing their teachers, but then they also want to see them following through with whatever they said they were going to do.
Right.
So let's dig into it. This is the ultimate self-advocacy skill.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I'll say is not every learner should be off the bat emailing their teachers, because if they don't have their system set up and they set up a meeting or have a plan to have a conversation with one of their teachers and they fail to show up to that, it's a real bad look. So we want to make sure that we are incrementally going in the direction of self-advocacy using email in a way that's going to actually be constructive and productive.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the reasons. And as parents, if you are sitting there thinking, I just can't get my kid to do this, let's talk about the whys. And then that'll help you understand why it's so hard to get them to do it. But the first and foremost is they don't use email.
Oh, it's not their form of communication.
Nope. Neither is text messages. It's one of those things where they're using social media to have any sort of back and forth communication. And so email feels like the dinosaur of...
It's the Facebook of communications.
Yeah, it's like sending a letter in the mail. Like, are you going to do that? No.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something that feels so much easier. And email doesn't feel easy to them, even though it feels easy to us, but it doesn't feel easy to them. So that's the first thing.
I would also argue it doesn't feel easy to every adult.
Well, compared to writing a letter and posting it, yes.
Posting
it's absolutely easier.
Posting an email or posting a letter.
Exactly. There's a lot more steps in that.
Totally. The second reason is that their inbox is a mess. And overwhelming.
Hot mess.
And they don't check it anyway. And they don't know how to log in anyway because they don't have the passwords. And then they open up and start another email. And suddenly now we have 20 emails going at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they are in complete overwhelm and therefore not engaged with it at all.
Rather ignore it. Yeah.
Yep.
Number 3 is they're uncomfortable writing a formal email. So that is something that we see teachers more and more teaching in elementary school how to write an email, but that might not stick. They don't remember. They never really understood the importance of the assignment back then or never had the assignment. So they'll write stuff. And I literally say to them, it's not as if you're speaking to me. This needs to be formal. And this is a good conversation about formal versus informal writing.
Mm-hmm.
But formal feels overwhelming, and formal is not something that they want to do right off the bat. So they avoid.
Yep. And then number 4 piggybacks right off of that. They don't know what to say in an email. So not only do they not know the structure of how to write a more formal email, and parents and teachers, even though you've literally had the conversation with them about this is what you need to ask, you sit them in front of the computer, you try to have them email, and they'll look at you and be like, what do I say?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where we see a lot of that sort of struggle come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So you got them to the point to sit down and open up the email. Oh, and they have to be able to find the person's email. It's a mess.
Yeah, it is.
So there's a lot of hills to climb
Yeah.
when writing an email. It's not so simple. What's next, Steph?
The next thing is, well, okay, they'll do it later. It's not a right now problem.
Or they will. They'll tell you, like, I got it. I'll do it later.
I'll do it later. Uh-huh.
Sure you will.
Not a right now problem. Yeah. And it's so easy to say, I'll do it later and then not really do it. So, Yep. What's the next one?
They tell us that they'll talk to their teacher. I wrote IRL, in real life.
Yeah. I hear this all the time.
Yeah. They're like, no. I see that teacher tomorrow. I'll just talk to them then.
Yeah.
Okay. But what's your plan for remembering?
Yep.
Your teacher at the beginning of class is preparing for class. At the end of class, they're wrapping up class. What's the plan here?
Mm-hmm. And what are you going to say?
And what are you going to say?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have your materials in front of you so you can show them directly what you have questions about? All of this stuff it's a good excuse.
It is.
It's a good excuse. But as you say, Steph, I've been to that movie before.
That movie has the same ending every single time. It really just does. It does.
Yeah. What's the next thing, Steph?
The next thing is they heard their teacher say not to email. Okay. Maybe there's one teacher that says they know themselves and know that they're not good about email, because I see those teachers. But a teacher might also say, don't email me about this because I am telling you this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very specific circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a blanket, don't email me.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the exception to don't email me.
Yep.
And that becomes the blanket rule. Well, that one time, that one teacher said, don't email me. So now I'm not going to email.
You will find those teachers who say they don't want emails. I find that there has to be an alternative form of communication put in place. And if there is not an alternative form of communication, guess what? We're going to go ahead and email, put me on the email, or put your parent on the email. But if that's not going to create peace and harmony in the household, don't do that. But put us on the email so they can see, oh, somebody else kind of told them to do this. And there have been times where I have piggybacked off an email that they've sent and I just send it directly to the teacher and I say, I know you don't prefer email. This is a one-off and we're working on some skills here. And these are the skills that we're working on. And the question is valid. And usually they engage.
It's true.
So what they don't want is what we all don't want, to be inundated.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You have 130 kids, let's say, on your caseload. Each one of them sends you an email.
Yeah. And sometimes it's more than one because they don't put all the questions in one email.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work for sure.
It's funny because every time I send out a whole bunch of emails, like I'm in the mode. And then I always will say to you or Katrina, this person had the audacity to write back to me because now I have to write back.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I'm the one who started the communication.
Yep.
All right. What's the 8th reason, Steph?
The 8th reason, and this, I put 8th because this reason is just, I have so much personal experience working with kids that this is their reason. And it's like an overwhelming response. Well, that one time I emailed the teacher and the teacher didn't respond, so it doesn't work. So one time has now become the rule.
And just because they don't respond doesn't mean they will not respond.
Right. Or maybe that particular email didn't need a response, or maybe that particular email the teacher addressed in class, maybe the teacher had COVID at that one moment. Who knows? There's a million reasons that I've seen. And I'm pulling these from specific examples I've experienced with my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So then that one time that it stops working or it didn't feel like it worked, then that becomes the rule. So we have to sort of push them and get them to say, okay, just because doesn't mean always.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get over. It's hard to feel like you've tried. And, when it feels like now you've hit your head against the wall, that's what they are feeling.
Well, it's such a lesson to the learners when they get to experience what it feels like when they don't respond to an email.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like they're not responding to email either.
Yeah.
And so it is frustrating, but we just have to keep going. And sometimes you need to escalate and sometimes you need to pivot, but it doesn't mean that we don't at least make the attempt. The bonus reason that emailing teachers is something that they want to avoid is because the follow-up is hard. We don't want to dig into that component too much in this episode because this episode is about why they don't want to email. It's not about why it's hard once they have emailed.
Yep.
But it's just a reminder to everybody that you can break down these tasks into different component parts, and sometimes the win will be getting them to write the email. Sometimes that's the win. So, Steph, is there anything else you want to add?
You know, I think this is an ongoing conversation, and I think it's one of those things where we have to take stock of why they're not jumping to do it. When we say, well, did you email your teacher? These are the reasons why they haven't already done it. So we have to teach them, and that way we can make it easier.
Yep. Have a great week, Smarties.
Have a great week.